Welcome to the PPSS Success Show. My name is Fong, and today we have another very interesting individual. He's been guiding so many people all around the world, individuals and companies, to integrate focus, health, and longevity into their daily practices. He's been impacting so many people from all over the place because he's been featured on so many different platforms and media, from TV stages and podcasts, talking about how midlife is no longer the beginning of decline. I think he found the fountain of youth. I'm very excited. He's the founder of Primal Health Design, a groundbreaking approach to reversing biological age and reclaiming human vitality. In his latest book, The Primal Health Design, he focuses on the seven key paradigms to reversing biological age. He's also been able to combine ancestral wisdom and also modern science to design a lifestyle that really optimizes the physical, mental, and emotional, and also the health of an individual. So please welcome physician, author, and longevity expert, Dr. KAVIN Mystery.
Thank you, Fong. Glad to be here.
Hey, thanks for being here. Always enjoy to speak with experts like you who has so much wisdom in what they do and also who's been sharing that wisdom with a lot of people to help them become better, become more healthy, and become more happier. But first off, how did you get to become the doctor you are today and the doctor who specializes in longevity?
Uh, Fong, so when I started, I've always been a visual person. And so when it came time to decide, I actually started off as an engineer. I know you mentioned you're an engineer as well. So I started off as a biomedical engineer and quickly realized that I was more bio than engineer, that my class on vector dynamics did not go well, let's just say, and so I actually switched out of a honors engineering program to just a regular bio degree. And then my program director said, either you're going to be a lab rat or a doctor. And I said, okay, the lab rat doesn't sound good, so I'm going to be a doctor. And so it was, right? But I've always been a visual person. I think that it's fascinating to me to be able to see people's bodies from the inside and really get an assessment of people's actual health and age, or biological age versus chronological age. Because I tell people, you can lie to me, but you cannot lie to me on my screen, right? Because I see right through you when you're on my screen. And 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 so and so it gives me this very unique perspective to look at people from the inside out. And you may say, "Oh, I stick to my diet, I have a great routine." And I always say, "Well, let's see what it looks like. Let's see what it looks like on screen." And so it gives me a real snapshot of people's health as they are right now, without any subjective parameters. So hence that started off on this journey, and it's been fascinating to see what people's health look like on screen. And it's sad to report that people's biological age is accelerating faster than their actual age or their chronological age.
What when you talked about picking bio and having the fascination of seeing what's inside people, that's the one reason I didn't like bio. I didn't
Okay,
like
all
to
right.
I didn't like cutting open the frogs and all that kind of stuff. Like, get me out of this class now because I wasn't interested at all. So it's very fascinating for somebody who has that much interest in that area. Focus on not the like medical side, but more on the maintaining and keeping your health. You're focusing on the preemptive stuff more than the reactive stuff. Why was that your focus versus lots of other doctors and lots of other professionals focus on the reactive stuff?
That's a great question, Fong. The current model we have in United States and also in Canada is that we have this, as you mentioned the word reactive, we have a reactive healthcare system, right? You get a shoulder pain, you go to your doctor, he diagnoses, looks at you, tells you to get an MRI, you find out you have like a rotator cuff tear, then we try to heal it. Physical therapy, if that doesn't work, then you may require something more aggressive. And by the time you have shoulder pain, you're already behind the eight ball. You've already done the damage. And so in a sense, reactive medicine doesn't work because we can no longer undo that damage. It's already done, so we're already behind the eight ball, and we've lost the game by the time you have shoulder pain. And so what I envision is that why don't we have a proactive model that when you go to your doctor, if somebody shows you a graph and say, hey, based on your current lifestyle and what you're doing right now, Fong, and everything, the way you're eating and way you're working out, this is what your trajectory looks like. Yeah, right? Right now, you may be at peak performance, but based on your trajectory, by the time you're 50 or 55, you're going to drop that performance where you will not be in this peak performance zone. You'll just be able to do your activities of daily living. And so, if you want to change this curve, the way it's going and the way you're operating right now, you're going to need to change your lifestyle right now. Otherwise, you're going to end up at 50 here. And I think that would impress people more. And I was fascinated by changing that curve for people because already on the screen, I'm seeing that people are aging faster than their actual age or chronological age. Okay. And what's interesting is as I started putting looking into these parameters, I started asking questions. Well, why is this guy aging faster than his age? And then the reverse was true. I saw 80-year-olds who had brains that look like 40-year-olds. And then I said, wow, this guy's doing something right. Okay. It's not purely due to genetics. There's something at play here. And so over the past 25 years, I've tried to uncover all these parameters that come into play. And it has developed into 7 paradigms, which I discuss in the book, to reversing biological age.
Mhm. Awesome. Well, we're going to jump into those 7 paradigms very soon. I just wanted to jump onto a few other questions first, and that is, you mentioned how people seem to age a lot faster than their biological age. Why is it so hard for people to grasp the fact that they need to do some more of the preemptive stuff than the reaction stuff? They're so most people usually think about, oh, I need to see a doctor when they have problems. They don't think about all the other stuff first. But in this day and age, it seems like, hey, that's common sense. Why is it not common sense?
I think it's Fong, most of it is awareness, right? Right now, you may be feeling great, Fong, right? And I'm sure your biological age is fantastic, and you're on the right path in terms of your right trajectory. But I believe that people in their 30s and early 40s, because nothing is a major issue, they think that whatever their current habits are, maybe, their drinking habits, maybe staying up late, their body is so healthy that it's able to keep up with those habits right now,
Mm,
right? But they don't see that the trajectory of their curve has dramatically changed, right? They're going on this downward curve where it's going to hit that line where they will lose that peak performance. Okay. And then you wind up seeing people who can just kind of do their thing, just move around. They can't really go and do any of those, activities that they used to. And slowly their performance starts decreasing. And sadly for people, it starts happening, it's happening earlier and earlier. People in their 50s and 60s now can no longer, run like they used to or go hiking like they used to and whatnot. But I think that people just don't see that. There is no plan to show people what their health projection looks like, right? We show all these, you go to a financial planner and they'll show you your estate projection, right? What does it look like? Current rate of growth and your based on your asset allocation, what does it look like? But nobody does that with your health and say, hey, based on this XYZ parameters, here's your curve. Do you like it? You don't like it. Let's change it. Okay. So,
that's very true. I mean, lots of people go to a financial advisor and they go, well, you have more than you think. If you do this, this, and this, you'll be able to retire at this age. But when you
correct.
go to a doctor's, you really only go to a doctor's, go, hey, fix this, and that's it. You don't go to a doctor's, show me my curve kind of thing. That never happens.
Right, right. I think we may need to change the title to health planning, right?
Mm.
Instead of when we have financial planning, we should really have health planning, right? Like somebody could sit and really project that. And I mean that with all seriousness, because I think, and that's my whole uh basis here with Primal Health Design, is that can we design routines to really show people that we're changing this trajectory? And
Mm.
moreover, I think, Fong, from your perspective and what the work you do, what I started finding out that it was no longer about just health, it was about performance. And that when all these parameters start improving in people, their performance improves. And when your performance improves, everything improves, right? Because your energy level is what you bring. Like when you're in sales and you say you're in real estate, right? It's all about really the energy and engagement that you bring to those that conversation and dynamic, be able to develop rapport. And what's been fascinating is that, I get called uh, uh, to sales organizations, and they're saying like, what's a what's a health doctor coming to here? But it's so tied in, because when you have energy, it automatically improves your performance and many other aspects that we'll talk about. So.
So we're going to jump into the 7 paradigms, because in contrast, you also mentioned that an 80-year-old has a brain of a 40-year-old, and they're doing something right. We're seeing pictures of Hollywood stars who are in their 60s and 70s, and you compare it to Hollywood stars in their 50s and 60s, and it looks like, wow, they're so much younger compared to the ones in the past. Even if we're looking at our old photo albums of our like fathers and grandfathers or grandparents and whatnot, they looked a lot older back then than some of the same age group of people now. Why is that? And I'm sure that ties into your 7 paradigms.
Absolutely. And that's what the goal is here, okay? Is that and I will discuss the 7 paradigms, but I want to impress upon people that um, particularly the audience here, I want to speak more in terms of performance, because there's one aspect is that people, one is aspect is longevity, where people can say, okay, you do this, this, and this, and you'll live longer. But that's not tangible, right? Because people think, okay, well, I'll live longer, but it's not something that is a more of a conceptual thing, and I cannot hold on to it, right? But when it's performance and it's something that you wake up tomorrow and you feel it, then you say, wow, okay, this works, right? But what I found out, so that when people start engaging with these aspects and these paradigms, their performance radically changes now. So not only do you get better performance now, but you're also improving your longevity at the same time. Yeah.
So when it comes to performance, how does a person maintain high or peak performance for a long period of time?
So when I get asked that question from, let's say, somebody coming in for health coaching, or we're doing a program, one thing, Fong, is that my model is starting from the inside out. Okay, I want people to build a base first. And what I mean by base is the first 3 paradigms that I talk about in the book is connection with earth, body, and food. Okay. And when you take accumulation of all those 3 paradigms, okay, why would that be important to somebody, in the field right now, who's active and talk to, concerned about performance? Okay. One, we know that when you start connecting with the earth in terms of grounding and aligning with the circadian rhythms, okay, that's what I mean by connecting with the earth, is aligning with the circadian rhythm. Your hormone profile naturally improves. That means for males particularly, right? Nowadays everybody's after high T and like maximizing their testosterone, maximizing their growth hormone. All these parameters start improving right away, because now you're in sync with your normal hormone cycle. You're allowing enough of, when you're in sync with the circadian rhythm, you have proper release of growth hormone at night and proper release of testosterone during the day. Both of these, one for performance, because that's kind of like that alpha particle, right? Like when you walk in, it's like the testosterone not only gives you the health, but it also gives you that alpha element, right? Of being the alpha in the room, right? And you talk about It just that's how primitive man was, right? Like the more dominant man had the higher testosterone and walking into the room. But if you were chasing the alpha, okay, in this case, right, then it's paramount that you have that health that is giving you that support of the growth hormone and the testosterone by aligning with the circadian rhythm. Okay. The second part is the way the connection with body. I tell people, and a lot of, I speak to adolescents and teens going through a lot of things, and I said that, then all these guys are looking to impress girls and everything like that, and and so and but what I tell them, that when you walk into a room, okay, or you're doing a sales pitch, or you're about to do a presentation, 95% of your communication is actually, it's a nonverbal, right? I mean, as you probably know that, right? From the work you do, is that a lot of what you communicate is nonverbal, okay? What you say is such a small percentage, right? Um, and that nonverbal part is when we look at from a primitive aspect, we're our eyes are designed to see certain things in people. And if you look at that, what is something that tells us that this guy is like an alpha male walking in, right? Is that a lot of it has to do with their alignment and how they carry themselves. And what I've seen is nowadays, as people are using more technology, engaging with more technology, using their phone, your whole posture is going inward and down, right? So your head is down, your shoulders are caved in, right? That's an anti-alpha, okay? Because you're losing that primal uh, cue. When people see you, you're losing that cue that people start seeing you as weak just from your posture, right? And not as a kind of like a alpha male, okay, or having that power. And so what I tell people is that as soon as you start bringing your posture more to your primal posture, right? Which means a lot with aligning your spine and everything like that, automatically you will improve your image as you walk into a room. And so one of the aspects of my work is showing people how to align their posture before they walk in, particularly from a sales perspective, okay? And the last piece on this, building that base of that physical health, is really how we connect with food, okay? And putting aside the idea of longevity and all that, which is important, okay? But from a performance point of view, what you eat impacts your energy level right away, okay? And I'm sure you've noticed that, Fong, right? Like certain meals you eat and you want to take a nap, right? And then certain meals you eat and you feel pretty energized, right?
Unfortunately, the ones that taste the best makes you want to sleep.
And that's my that's my take on it too. So
Make it the other way. Come on.
yeah, I know. Could we just make pizza like the best thing to eat in the world? So that would work for me. But I think if we recognize that and we say that, and from that perspective, from what you just said, I usually tell people that to take a more of like a 80-20 perspective, right? 80% of the time, try to eat foods that are energizing, right? And then maybe 20% have some play to go out and do the things. But the thing is that when performance is required, you got to dial in that component so that you're not dragged down. Because if you have a strong physiology, but then you sabotaged it with what you just ate, it's not going to work either,
Yeah.
So I think all these three things, connection with earth, body, and food, gives that people that physical health dimension that is like a base that people need to start off with.
Mhm.
Okay. And that gives you that energy and that power posture when you walk into a room.
Mhm. No, the natural step after that would be the mental health, right?
Right.
So,
So,
yeah.
and absolutely. And so once we have that physical dimension stabilized and people feel comfortable and they're able to navigate all those aspects, properly, then I think you can move to the mental aspect. The thing is that if you don't have these physical parameters dialed in and you directly jump into the mental aspect and you say, oh, I'm going to start meditating, Well, good luck meditating because if your diet is off, you're not sleeping well, you're not grounding well, and have high level of inflammation, there's no way you can experience that level of clarity in meditation because it just won't happen. You know, physically, you're not you are not prepped to meditate, put it that way. Okay. And so that's the one thing, like even when I've gone to like meditation programs or retreats and whatnot, like almost 2 months before that program, they would give us instructions of how we should eat by the time we get to the program. So you had 2 months of physical fitness prep in terms of eating right and doing all these things so that when you get there for that weekend for that meditation program, you can actually experience it, you know. And so let's assume that somebody has these physical parameters dialed in. Then we move to the mental part. Now, why is that important from a performance point of view? And that's what I tell young professionals and people in sales is that one is when you're talking to somebody, okay, and somebody's looking you straight in the eye, they know in 2 seconds if you're present or you're not present. Okay. As you know, Fong, right? Like when you're talking to somebody, you know if the guy's with you or not with you, you know?
Yeah.
And that presence, it's a cue that you're picking up, and you're primally designed to pick up that cue by looking at somebody's eyes. And what I see now, and which is really troubling to me, is more and more of the teens and the adolescents that I see, and even young adults that I see, they are so digitally distracted, okay, by all the apps, all the notifications, everything running on your phone. You have so many tracks running that really, when I look into their eyes, I don't see the presence because their mind is so scattered, you know. And so part of my practice is helping people develop that aspect, and then to go from that anxiety and digital distraction to teach them how to have focused attention. That's number one, just to have attention, okay?
Yeah.
And once we get to attention and we can work with that, we get to a third level, which is called awareness, which is a much harder journey. Okay. And awareness is where you're present, you have flow, you're in front of people, they can feel you that you're charismatic and all that. But you cannot jump to that without having attention and you know all that. So it's a journey that we have to take people on.
Very, very interesting stuff. And I think you're one of I think you're the first person that focuses on the physical aspect first and then the mental aspect. I've been listening to a lot of different coaches and experts, and they even say, okay, you have to work on the mindset. Mindset's very important. And then the physical stuff will come in because if you don't have the mindset, you won't do the physical part. But from your perspective, if you don't do the physical part, you can't do the mental stuff correctly. Is there a balance there that people should kind of navigate through?
And I think, you know, this has come from personal experience because I've always, you know, people used to say, "Oh, I meditate and I feel this state of just being, you know, my body feeling weightless and all that." And I was like, wow, isn't that incredible? I said, how do you experience these things? And when I went on that journey myself to kind of like dig deeper into this contemplative practices, because we know that when you start meditating, parts of your brain that have to do with memory, parts of your brain that have to do with focus start improving. You grow more brain from the idea of neuroplasticity, and that you're able to rewire your brain and build more gray matter in those areas. So the benefits, hands down, with all the current research, are phenomenal. Okay, so all the research saying that incredible. You know, that's why Google, Microsoft, all these companies are investing so much funding into getting these types of programs to their employees because they want the sharpest, most focused employees, and then they know that all these things are helping them develop and rewire their brain. But what I saw in myself is that if if I was not eating right and not sleeping right and not properly synced with the circadian rhythm in terms of, and sleeping on time and waking up in a decent hour, that there is no way I could even do any of those contemplative practices. It just doesn't work. Okay. And you know that, Fong, right? Like think about trying to do something mentally tasking where you have to focus with like 4 hours of sleep, it won't happen. You cannot do it. You're in a mental fog, and you just need to just say, okay, I'm going to write off this day, start tomorrow and do a reset and like really, really do it right. So that's the thing. So you cannot take somebody who is sleep deprived and not nourished properly and not connected with the rhythms that I talk about and try to get them to meditate. It just doesn't work from my
Right.
experience.
So a lot of these things sound like it's a habit thing that people should do on their own time, for them personally. How do you implement this into a corporate situation or a company situation?
That's a wonderful question, Fong. So one of the things is that in the corporate culture, once they realize, and that's why I mentioned Google and all these things, what they're finding is that to give people that first that vital energy to be at work. One of the issues that corporate struggles with is engagement. And if you look at the stats, okay, in terms of how many people are engaged at a company, engaged meaning they're actively involved in growing the company and doing everything that's needed to kind of move that needle forward. And you would see the biggest challenge in corporate is that people are not engaged. Okay. And when we dive in, why are people not engaged, right? And you look at all these parameters, a lot of it comes from this aspect of physically they're not engaged because they don't have the energy, they're not, eating right and whatnot. So in fact, a lot of companies have changed how the types of food that they serve. Okay. The They will have bars there where people can hang so they get their spinal alignment. They have standing desks and that are more prone. They implement all these parameters that I'm talking about, right? They have areas where you can step out, get some sun. You can actually be outside because you get more connected with the natural elements, and you can revive your body. So that's hence the way, if you look at the way the Google campus is designed. In fact, some of these companies are also have the sleep pods. I don't know if you've heard about that, but there are pods where people, we used to, traditional thinking was, how can you have people sleeping at work, but we're finding that sleep is so vital and it's such a revitalizing thing that even a 15-minute nap can actually improve your performance right after. So a lot of these companies will have a sleep pod where you go in, it's almost like a zero gravity chair. The whole pod closes, and for 15 minutes, it's just total darkness inside, and you can zonk out and really recuperate. So, the companies who see the message, okay, and see the research are able to incorporate a lot of these elements.
So throughout, like you've done this for many many years. You've talked to a lot of different companies and big corporations and whatnot. Have you found that this concept has been more acceptable through these years now? Like, are more and more people more open to this concept, or do you still find people so against this? Like, what? You want me to serve better food? What? You want me to put a sleep pod in there? They're supposed to be working. Like, how do you navigate through that?
It's, you know, if you go back, things change over time when people realize, okay, and people realize, okay, with my present, the previous model where I was just kind of cracking the whip, on people, right? And saying, oh, you got to show up at this time, get work, time, clock in, clock out, and do your thing. With that old model, if you have low level of engagement and nothing has changed, people are realizing they have to try something new.
Mm.
At the same time, we have all this research showing that, we can rewire our brain, that meditation improves focus, improves performance, improves engagement, improves all these things. So all this research on this neuroscience side is coming out, right? And so the companies that have leadership that is health focused and actually want to make a long-term change and they see all these parameters, one of the things is this concept of deep work. When you have people who you want to create and come up with new ideas. Let's say you are at Google, okay? And your main thing is you're not worried about what's happening right now. You're worried about 5, 10, 15 years from now. What are we working on that's going to revolutionize things in that time, right? And that's why you need to have a team of people who are totally creative, thinking of something that doesn't even exist right now. And what we found, the only way you can get that type of creativity, or what we call that when people are in the zone or in this deep workspace, is that when they can maintain a focus for almost 20 minutes. That's the only way research shows that you can get into that space of deep work, right? Where creativity blossoms and people get new ideas and inspirations and things like that. So once that science and everything started coming out, you saw all these companies that are looking for new ideas and whatnot. They said, okay, this is important. We got to get our employees kind of doing this so that they can be creative.
Now, one of the things that you talk about a lot is how midlife is no longer the beginning of the decline. Is there such thing as midlife? Is there a new midlife kind of age where you start sensing that decline, or can we prevent that completely?
I don't think there is a dotted line anywhere anymore.
Mm.
For example, if I'm 50 and my body age is 30, then where is my dotted line,
Right.
Because I know 60-year-olds who can outrun a lot of 30-year-olds. Okay. And so there is no there is no dotted line. Okay. We know that after a certain time, you're not going to form muscle as quickly. We know that the rate will slow down. Okay, that it'll take you longer to heal, just because that's the body is has you have certain chronological age change, but it's so small, right? It's such a small decline that you cannot say somebody. So when they started working out, 70-year-olds and 80-year-olds, they still had muscle gains. Okay. It won't be like a teenager working out at 19, but they will still have muscle gains. So you cannot use chronological age as a parameter anymore.
So when it comes to maintaining performance, increasing longevity, what are some of the base things that a person needs to do every single day? Let's say level one, and then level two, and then maybe level three if you have some of those
Oh,
parameters that
sure,
you
sure,
follow.
sure, sure. And so I think some of it we touched upon, and I think we can build this out a little further.
Yep.
Okay. So one is we talked about building that physical base. Okay. And actually I have on for people who want to know what should I do in the morning? What's my morning routine, right? I actually have a free PDF download on my site, and
Awesome.
I will give people that so they can have that. Okay. So without getting into details of like what the exact morning routine looks like, I have a whole PDF prepared so people can use it. Okay. But so we talked about, identifying that physical base, which gives you that energy and vitality, right? We talked about, connecting with the circadian rhythm, aligning your spine, okay, and aligning, having that alignment so you kind of have that primal posture, okay, very, very important, okay, and then having that proper kind of eating so that you have that energy. Then we move to that mental space, that mental dimension where you have that clarity and focus, right? Because to do what you need to do. And I think that if people want to experience something greater than that and really want to succeed, I think, in the long run. Okay. What I found is that physical fitness industry, medical industry focuses on those two areas, the physical dimension, the mental dimension. Very few people actually move on to the third dimension, which is like the emotional dimension. And what I mean by that is, I believe, Fong, that all of us have a very unique constitution and unique gifts that we carry. For example, in my Eastern background, coming from India, they tend to put people into four slots. They'll say that we have the physical creators, right? And those are those are, people who create things, okay, with their hands or with some type of art or whatnot. Then you have the thinkers, and maybe I fall into that category, right? And maybe you're a thinker, being an engineer, I guess, you know. And then you have the connectors. Those are the people who are just very high emotional quotient. They're able to connect with people, you know, have that. And then you have the people who are spiritually inclined and kind of they have that connection where they can bring that to people. And what I feel that everybody has a bit of everything, a little bit of everything, but there's one quality that's going to be dominant in you. Okay. And what I find that in terms of performance, okay, and why are we talking about that here, is that when you find what your dominant quality is, okay, and then it will and you use that in your work, okay? And for example, let's say Fong, you were super creative and at design work and typography and everything like that, and you just come up with just innovative designs and everything like that. And now you put you in a electrical engineering job where you're working at a plant or whatnot. You may be making a lot of money. You maybe become like the sales head over there, but you're going to be suffocated because your primal quality that's within you, that creative aspect, right? That creative being is going to be suffocated, you know? And so one of the things I tell professionals is that when you find out what that quality is, okay, in Japan, they take it a step further, and you probably know this really well, is the idea of ikigai, right? That the aspect of you, you know, something that you love to do, that you're good at, that the world values, and that you can get paid for. The convergence of all those 4 points, okay? When you can find that and you can input that and cater your job to include that. Let's say you're a creative. Now you go to a job and let's say you're working in a sales department. You can say, "Hey, can I change my job so I can take over some of the creative aspects of advertising and whatnot for the firm? Can I have some input in that?" I think the employee would be great. They would be more than happy to include you in that. But now you have that creative outlet, and I think that your performance at your everything else you do will improve because you have that outlet. Okay, and so what I'm seeing with young adults now is that they chase a vocation based on societal expectations. Okay, they'll go after something because they think that that's where the highest ROI is in terms of that's where financially they want to go with something. I want to be an investment banker because that's where those guys make the most money. True, okay, but is it something that then is going to drive you once you're in that field? Are you created for this? Okay, and that misalignment tends to be in the long run a source of chronic anxiety for people, and that diminishes your performance, and then you're disengaged. Okay, and
Right.
that's what I see. Okay, um, so I would say that when we layer these things together, okay, it becomes very powerful.
You mentioned how a lot of people now, like young professionals, pick a certain thing because that's where potential is for large wealth and whatnot. What if, what if, unfortunately, what they're good at or their high potential is something that doesn't bring in the wealth? So how do they make that work for them?
And I think that's when in this day and age, Fong, it's no longer that you have to commit to that one field and then just dive into that. I think that it's such a uh, I think every field is now so multidimensional, that you can cater. That's why I'm saying you have to curate that field
Right.
so that it leverages your gifts and strengths. Okay, I'll give you an example. So I became a radiologist, a neuroradiologist, became a young partner, joined a great group and everything like that. And they liked me. They liked the way I interact with people and I talk and whatnot. And they said, okay, you know what? We want you to be the VP of the group. because in the long run, I think you'll be a great for the group. And so I was one of the youngest guys, and then they wanted me to be VP, and I was like, wow, that's great, like the title and then the money that goes with it, and then, but my strength has always been connecting and teaching people. I'm very good at taking very complex concepts in science and then making them very approachable for people. And that's been my strength. And I've done that all the way through college. And I do that for medical students. I do that for residents. Take all these really hard to learn concepts, make them simple. That's my strength. And I guess if you call it, that's my ikigai to some degree, right? And so I saw myself as a VP uh, being able to do less of teaching and more I have to do admin, deal with the hospitals, deal with the complaints. I have to hire people, fire people, and everything like that. It's part of the game, right? Becoming that bring taking on that position. And I had to do a deep dive, and I said, okay, is this what I really want? Okay, it comes with the title, comes with the money. But is this something that is going to bring me joy every day when I go to work? Okay, and so 3 months into this job, I actually wound up leaving that VP job, and nothing wrong with them. I told them, I said it's nothing wrong with the job and everything like that. It's like everything is great, okay? But it's just that I feel that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I want to be in a different space, and I don't want to regret this decision now because if I'm so embedded as a VP, it's going to be very, very tough for me to come
Yeah.
out of that. So I changed my job. I became a teaching attending at a different group, teaching residents, started a residency program. But that brings me joy every day. That's where I am right now. I teach residents. I was able to then have the time to interact, write books, as you know, and do that. And it told me, and I tell you, in the long run, even financially, probably it will be better because I'm able to leverage my strengths better. So I hope that makes sense, right? So I think that people need to realize that whatever you're chasing, do you see an opportunity to leverage your strengths in that pursuit? Okay. And if there is zero chance of leveraging your strengths and your gifts, then maybe like my VP job, then maybe it may not be the best. Maybe financially it may be the right route. Maybe that you're going to get paid for now. But are you going to be able to sustain that for 5, 10 years with that enthusiasm? Because if you don't, you don't want someone like me to be an average VP, right? You want a guy in that role that's going to be fantastic. He's going to wake up and say, "Oh, I love my admin job." But then you need someone like me who's enthusiastic about teaching because that's their calling. So I hope that
And
makes sense.
And I think that's what a lot of people are stuck in. They get comfortable in that scenario and they get so tied to the paycheck and they're so afraid to speak out. They're so afraid to reach out. What would you say to them to either break out or find that balance either elsewhere or within the career?
So the best thing one is, Fong, I tell people to take inventory of things that make you what I call disappear. What is something that you do where time just disappears? Where when you're doing that activity, that you feel that it can go on forever and it wouldn't bother you, you know?
Mm,
For some people, it's doing creative work. For some people, in my case, it's doing this type of work or teaching or speaking. I
yeah.
just enjoy it that it to me the time is not it's a non-relevant thing at that time. And so if people can take an inventory, I don't know what it is for people. Maybe let's say it's being creative, okay? Maybe it's the art aspect of it. Maybe it's when you're talking and connecting with people, or maybe it's when you're designing, or what it is. What is it that makes you disappear? It may not be one thing, it may be four or five things, okay? And what I would say is that gives you the tip of the iceberg to find things that put you in that flow state where you kind of lose yourself, right? And when you find things that you can lose yourself, you got to take that list and say, how can I incorporate this into what is happening right now, in whatever role I am in right now? Okay. Because in this day and age, there is so much opportunity to curate a job. It's fascinating, okay? And one of the things I think as a somebody in a leadership position, I would say if somebody is has many employees and is listening to this, I would say that that's one of the things as a leader we should look at the employees and say what are the strengths, right? Who are the creatives? Who are the connectors? Who are the thinkers? And then assign them and give them that appropriate roles in that, right? Because sometimes, like you said, people started off in a certain position and then they just stay there because that's what pays them and that's what they're used to. And now that they have a little bit of experience in it, they just keep doing that. But they never ask themselves, is that the driver, right? Is are they designed to do that work, but if we could curate people's jobs around their strengths, give people a chance to make that change, and also as a leader, find out, what people and it's very easy to find out. Honestly, if you give me like 10 minutes to view your Instagram or your Facebook profile, I can probably give you 3 to 4 things that probably where you lose yourself, okay? And I'm not just talking about like traveling and things like that, but just based on what people gravitate to, you can figure out where their strengths lie, that would be my take on it.
I'm afraid to see what your take is on those who just use social media as like trolling and throw up all those negativity stuff. Like, what's best for them?
Well, there will always be those, right? There will always be those exceptions, right?
So for somebody like yourself who's already so accomplished in what they do, what are you looking for now? Like what are the types of people that you want to be connected to? What kind of opportunities are you looking for? What's the next big thing?
It's- So I just finished recording, and it's kind of in the beta stage, is a 21-day transformation program where I take people through these 7 paradigms, and it's a sort of like a master class with me every day for 21 days, and I dive deep into each of these aspects. And the book is a good starter because a lot of it, but it's pretty much self-study, and you'll have to create your routine on your own. But here I take people on a 21-day journey. And it's been exciting, and it's a way to communicate with people directly because I can talk to you face to face, and we can go on this journey together. And my hope is that, we can change this reactive healthcare model to a proactive healthcare model. And I think the way the trend is right now, we are engaging with AI is progressing so rapidly, as you know, every day it's just incredible pace, right? I see it in radiology because we employ almost 30 different AI tools, and our hospital is a testing site for a lot of AI products. And so I'm looking at and testing and doing all these things, and it's phenomenal. I do not put AI down,
Yeah,
but we do not want to have a empowered technology and disempowered humanity. And that's the rift that I'm seeing, that we're disempowering humanity and empowering technology. But when you look at humanity in terms of what you bring, in terms of your vitality, in terms of your presence, in terms of your connection and authenticity, that technology cannot do. You know what I'm saying? Technology cannot replace presence, right? Cannot replace connection.
yeah.
And so I want to bring these primal elements to light and say that these are just as important. As we engage with I think we need to empower humanity as much as we empower technology. And so that's my mission, really, to empower people along with AI and everything all together. Yeah.
Very, very powerful stuff because I think lots of people now are like, well, if ChatGPT says so, it must be right. Right?
Right.
They're no longer going towards the experts and asking the experts, hey, what do you think? Versus just searching it online, right? Which is
Right.
an element that people are missing.
And I think, Fong, and I'm glad you said that, but even a deeper layer to that is that if you look at creativity that and coming up with something novel, totally something innovative, right? People think that now I can rely on ChatGPT to give me the idea, right? But ChatGPT is going to kind of, it's like amalgam of a lot of different information and databases, and it's really not going to come up with that innovation, right? That idea that's going to, and so that's going to come through intuition. It's going to come through a much deeper place than ChatGPT.
Mhm.
And that's what I want to impress upon people is that when you want to access that part, right? That's the true creativity. And that's why you could see Google, Microsoft, they're spending so much money on these contemplative practices and meditation and things like that, and bringing that to their employees because they want those inspirations. They want people with that real creativity. I'm not talking AI creativity.
Right.
I'm talking human creativity, right? Because that's what's going to move the needle forward, right? It's not you doing a ChatGPT search and say, "Hey, come up with a creative idea that I can," uh, that's not it. It will be good, but it will not be the innovation that we're looking for.
Right. Very, very good. Um, let's say we put you on the world stage and you already gave us a lot of great nuggets, a lot of great things to learn from and think about. What is your final kind of message to everybody in the world to remember you for?
Final message would be one is that why do we do all this, right? In terms of performance, in terms of bringing, being more present and having clarity, and I think that at the end of the day, I would say that the my last paradigm is that right now people wake up and people doom scroll, or at night you're like binge watch Netflix and whatnot. And I tell people that the only reason you're able to do that, only reason you're able to doom scroll is because you think you have endless tomorrows. Because you think that the important stuff that you need to do will be done tomorrow. Okay.
Hmm.
And that you have endless tomorrows that I can, oh, someday I will, tomorrow I will. But when you wrap your head around the concept that 100 years, let's say people live 100 years, and that's being generous, okay, for most people, right? But let's say you live 100 years is a short span of time when you look at the overall, right? And when you realize that that is a very finite life, okay? When you have this mindset that I have endless tomorrows, you're going to waste your time scrolling and doing all this goofy stuff, right? But when you realize that it's a finite life, that you have this short span of time to do something great, when you realize it's a finite life, you're going to chase infinite things. You're going to chase things that are going to live beyond you. And so I would say that my greatest message that if I can give people is that, we have finite time to make something infinite happen. And so if people can have that mindset of creating something that is going to live beyond you, that's when, I look at someone like Steve Jobs, right? He was not thinking of what's going to happen that year. He was thinking, what is the world going to look like when he's not even there, And I think when people can have that legacy mindset, is like, what is a movement I can start? What is the conversation that I can begin today that's going to change things, that's going to be for the greater good? And overall, I had a mentor used to always ask and say, um, how many people are better off because you lived, you know? And I think when you ask that question, it changes your focus about everything you do, not just about your health, but everything, because then you're tied into a much greater cause than just, what's in it for me.
That is very, very powerful. I think that's your mic drop right there. So thank you very much. Before I let you go, I have five quick rapid fire questions for you.
Yeah,
If you could
let's
give
do
me
it.
the first thing that comes to mind. All right. So you're stranded on a deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life. You'll still be healthy and fit. What would that be?
One food to eat for the rest of my life.
You'll be
Uh,
healthy. You'll be fit. So it could be anything.
oh, I would take honey.
Great. That doesn't put you to sleep, right?
It's good for sleep, but many other things. So yes.
Awesome. Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey, we love your story. Very, very inspirational. Lots of great messages there. We would love to do a biopic of you. Who would you cast to play you?"
I would say, wow, that is a great question. Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise calls and goes, "Hey, I got casted to play you. Let's hang out. Let's have some fun. I'll let you decide what to do. So, what does that night look like?"
Oh, what does that night look like? All right. Well, we would do the most adventurous thing that we could do. I would go if it's at night, we would go, we would probably go hiking at night or some outdoor activity at night, camp out or something like that. But some outdoor activity at night where we can be under the stars and really be connected.
Awesome. Well, during that walk, he gets hungry and go, "Hey, no problem, Tom. Let's come back to my place. I'll cook you my specialty. What's your special dish?"
So my special dish would be it would be a all plant. I would uh, uh a conglomeration of all I take a bunch of veggies like cauliflower, sweet potato, and whatnot, and I have a different way of flavoring each of them so they taste out of this world. Okay, because there are different elements we can combine. So I would do a medley of a all plant veggie plate, which I think would blow his mind.
Nicely done. And then last question, give me a number from 1 to 3.
Three.
1, 2, 3. So the word is storybook. If you had to use a storybook as a metaphor for success, how is success like a storybook?
So success, I would say it would be seven chapters, and it would be the seven levels we talked about. And really, because your goal is to live each chapter in that storybook. And I think if we wrap up here, if people develop their physical health the way I told you, develop that emotional health, and develop their mental health and emotional health. But that last piece that I talked about of that legacy is what I call as existential health. If you can go through all seven chapters of your life and complete them appropriately, it will be a well-lived life.
Well done. And that's how success is like a storybook. So thank you very much for that. Any final words from you, and what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yes. So, like I said, if people want a download for my morning routine, they can go to the website of the book, primalhealthdesign.com. Currently, it's a splash page where people can download the PDF. They can get more information about the book and also more information about the course that is right now in beta testing. Okay, so people can sign up and get information on that. If anybody truly says, "Oh, I really would like to be a beta tester and like to try out the course," you can ping me through contacting me through the website, and then we can arrange something for those people. I have a LinkedIn page that is very active, and I have a blog on there called The Aligned Life, where I bi-weekly put out content where people can take people on this journey of connecting with these seven elements. So LinkedIn is a great place to reach out to me, ask me questions, get my sign up for my newsletter and blog and yeah. And Kavin Mystery MD is my handle on Instagram, Facebook, and whatnot as well. But I'm definitely active on LinkedIn in terms of communicating with people.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. So everybody, make sure you connect with Dr. Kevin. As you can tell, he is so full of energy. Lots of, I'm assuming, a high performance individual because of the way he speaks, the amount of energy he puts in, and he's an expert in that. So make sure you connect with him. And if you want to live longer and also have a better performance, I'm guessing you're the right person to talk to, right?
Right. Bring it. We will. I love questions. So if people have anything they want to reach out to me, it'd be great. Fong, pleasure connecting with you. And I love your work and everything that I saw on your socials. And God bless with everything you're pursuing.
Awesome. Thank you. So sign up for his newsletter, get his book, and until next time, he's Dr. Kavin. My name's Fong. Until next time, today is the day clock. Your peak potential. We'll see you later.
All right. Be well.